The day Amber forced me out of Chicago, she didn't even look me in the eye. "It's better this way," she whispered, voice cracking like thin ice, while her mother stood in the doorway of their Lakeview brownstone, arms crossed, lips pressed into the same disapproving line I'd seen 100 times before. I had begged. God, I had begged. 5 years of stolen weekends, secret kisses in borrowed cars, late-night promises whispered under hotel sheets, all of it erased in one afternoon because Fatima al-Rashid had decided her only daughter could not love another woman and still carry the family name with pride. I left with one suitcase and the taste of salt on my lips. Amber's final text came as the train pulled out of Union Station. "I'm sorry. I love you. But I can't lose them. No goodbye emoji. No heart." Just those words, sharp as the January wind cutting through the platform. That was 5 years ago. I was 23 then, fresh out of Northwestern with a marketing degree and dreams bigger than the city skyline. Now at 28 I walked back into Chicago not as the broken girl who'd cried herself to sleep in a Milwaukee studio apartment, but as Elena Vasquez, senior project director at Pinnacle Developments. The same Pinnacle Developments that had just won the bid to revitalize the failing al-Rashid family commercial empire. The chain of upscale Middle Eastern import stores and restaurants teetering on bankruptcy after the pandemic and bad real estate bets. I knew the moment the contract landed on my desk. Fatima's signature was still elegant, still imperious, even on digital letterhead. And Amber, her name appeared in the org chart as chief operating officer, the heir apparent groomed since childhood. They needed us. Desperately. Pinnacle wasn't just offering money. We were offering survival. My boss, Marcus, clapped me on the shoulder during the kickoff briefing. "This one's high profile, Elena. The al-Rashid family has deep roots in the community. Make it work and you're looking at VP next year." I smiled, nodded, felt nothing but cold clarity. Make it work. Oh, I would make it work. The first meeting was scheduled in their flagship store on Michigan Avenue. The one with the gold-lettered sign that used to make my heart race every time I slipped inside after hours to meet Amber in the stockroom. Now the place smelled faintly of cardamom and desperation. Shelves were half-stocked. The cafe section had only 3 tables occupied. Fatima greeted me first. She hadn't aged the way I expected, still regal silver threading her dark hair, eyes sharp as ever. If she recognized me, she gave no sign. "Ms. Vasquez," she said, extending a manicured hand. "We appreciate Pinnacle's interest in our legacy." Legacy. The word tasted bitter. I shook her hand firmly. "We're here to build something sustainable, Mrs. al-Rashid. Not preserve a museum." Amber appeared from the back office then. She froze in the doorway. 5 years had sharpened her features, cheekbones higher, jaw more defined, but the eyes were the same deep hazel that used to melt me. She wore a tailored blazer over silk, hair pulled into a low bun, every inch the corporate daughter. But when our gazes locked, something cracked behind her composure. "Elena," she breathed, barely audible. Fatima glanced between us, brow furrowing. "You two know each other?" "College," I said smoothly before Amber could speak. "Northwestern. Small world." Amber's throat worked. She managed a nod. "Small world." We sat around the conference table. Fatima at the head, Amber to her right, me opposite with my team of analysts. I laid out the proposal. Full redevelopment of their 10 locations into mixed-use spaces. Retail below, luxury condos above, plus a branded restaurant chain pivot to appeal to younger demographics. Aggressive timelines. Non-negotiable equity stake for Pinnacle. Fatima listened, fingers steepled. Amber stared at the slides like they were written in blood. When the presentation ended, Fatima spoke first. "This would change everything we've built." "It would save everything you've built," I corrected gently. "Without capital infusion and repositioning, you'll be closing doors within 18 months. The numbers don't lie." Amber finally looked up. "And what happens to the people who've worked here for decades? The families who depend on these stores?" I met her gaze evenly. They adapt or they find new places. That's business. The room went quiet. Fatima studied me a long moment. "We'll review and respond within the week." As the team filed out, Amber lingered. When the door clicked shut, she turned to me. "Why are you here, Elena?" "Because this is the job," I said. "And because your family needs me." Her laugh was hollow. "You hate us." I don't hate your family. I stepped closer, voice low. I hate what you let them do to us. She flinched. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. I picked up my briefcase. See you at the next meeting, Amber. I walked out without looking back, heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack a rib. Outside, the wind off Lake Michigan smelled the same as it had 5 years ago. But I wasn't the same. That night in my temporary corporate apartment downtown, I poured a glass of red and stared at the city lights. Revenge wasn't the word I would use. Not yet. This was reclamation. Of time. Of dignity. Of the future I'd been denied. But when I closed my eyes, all I could see was Amber's face in that doorway. Shocked, guilty, and still impossibly beautiful. The second meeting took place in Pinnacle's glass-walled conference room overlooking the river. Amber arrived alone. Fatima had sent her to handle the details, she explained, but we both knew what that meant. Test the waters, see how far I'd push. She wore navy today, a color that made her skin glow. I hated that I noticed. We reviewed term sheets for 3 hours. Clauses on branding rights, profit sharing, employee retention guarantees. Every time she challenged a point, her voice stayed professional, but her fingers twisted the pen until the cap cracked. During a break, the others stepped out for coffee. We were alone again. You've done well, she said quietly, staring at the river. VP track already? Director, I corrected. But close. I'm proud of you. The words hit like a slap. Don't. She turned. Elena. No. I stood, paced to the window. You don't get to be proud. You don't get to feel anything about my life now. I never stopped thinking about you. I laughed short, bitter. That's supposed to make it better? I was scared, she said. My mother. The community. They would have cut me off completely. The business was already struggling then. If I walked away. You chose them. I faced her. You chose safety over us. Her eyes filled. I thought you'd understand. I understood perfectly. That's why I left without fighting dirty. I leaned in. But I'm not that girl anymore. She swallowed. What do you want from this deal? I want it signed. I want your signature on every line that gives Pinnacle control. And I want you to watch while your legacy gets rewritten. She recoiled. That's cruel. Cruel as forcing someone you love to disappear. Silence stretched. Then she whispered, I still love you. The air left my lungs. For one heartbeat the room tilted. But I straightened. Love doesn't erase 5 years of silence. When the team returned, we resumed. Amber argued harder now, pushing for more employee protections, slower timelines. I countered each point with data, calm, precise. By the end of the day, she looked exhausted. As she packed her things, she slipped a folded note into my hand. I didn't open it until I was alone in the elevator. Meet me tonight. The old pier. 9 p.m. Please. I should have thrown it away. Instead I went. The Navy pier was quiet midweek, lights reflecting on black water. She waited at the end, coat pulled tight against the wind. When she saw me, relief flashed across her face. You came. I shouldn't have. She stepped closer. I needed to see you. Alone. Why? Because I can't do this in boardrooms. Her voice broke. Because every time I look at you, I remember what I threw away. I crossed my arms. Then why did you? Mom found my phone. The messages. She gave me an ultimatum. End it or lose everything, the business, the family, the life I'd been raised for. Tears spilled. I was 23. I panicked. You could have fought. I tried. She wiped her cheek. For weeks after you left, I argued. I threatened to leave. But she got sick, heart problems. Stress, the doctors said. I couldn't be the reason she died. I stared at the water. So you sacrificed me instead. Yes. The word was raw. And I've hated myself every day since. Part of me wanted to walk away. The other part, the part that still ached, reached out and brushed a tear from her cheek. She caught my hand, held it against her face. Tell me it's too late. I should have. But my thumb traced her jaw instead. It's complicated. We stood like that until the wind turned colder. When we finally parted, she hugged me, brief, desperate. Thank you for coming. I drove home shaking. Not from cold. The next morning Fatima called personally. We've decided to move forward with Pinnacle. But we want you leading the project personally, Ms. Vasquez. No substitutions. I agreed. Of course I did. But as I hung up, I realized the game had shifted. This wasn't just business anymore. This was personal. Weeks blurred into site visits, design reviews, tense negotiations. Amber and I circled each other like wounded animals, professional in public, raw in stolen moments. One evening after a late session, we ended up in the elevator alone again. She pressed the stop button between floors. I can't keep pretending, she said. Then don't. She kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was 5 years of grief and hunger and regret poured into one desperate collision. My back hit the wall, her hands fisted in my hair. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, she whispered, I never stopped wanting this. I touched my lips. This doesn't fix anything. I know. She rested her forehead against mine. But I can't lose you twice. We didn't speak after that. The elevator resumed. We stepped out like nothing happened. But everything had. The project accelerated. Demolition permits filed. Renderings approved. Fatima hosted a celebratory dinner at their family estate in Kenwood. Old money elegance, crystal chandeliers catered mezzi. I was the guest of honor. Amber sat beside me. Under the table, her knee pressed against mine. Constant. Claiming. Fatima raised a glass. To new beginnings. And to Elena, who brought us back from the brink. I smiled. To survival. After dessert, Fatima pulled me aside in the library. Floor-to-ceiling books, leather chairs, the scent of old paper. You've impressed me, she said. I wasn't sure at first. But you've proven yourself. Thank you. She studied me. Amber speaks highly of you. Says you're exceptional. My pulse kicked. We've worked closely. Fatima's eyes narrowed slightly. Be careful, Elena. Amber carries heavy responsibilities. Distractions can be costly. I held her gaze. I'm not here to distract anyone. She nodded slowly. Good. When I found Amber later on the terrace, she was smoking. Something she hadn't done since college. Mom talked to you? Yes. She exhaled smoke. She suspects. Let her. Amber turned. You don't understand. If she finds out. Then what? I challenged. She'll disown you? Cut you off? She's already handing over half the company to Pinnacle. What else can she take? Amber crushed the cigarette. She can take me apart piece by piece. Emotionally. Publicly. She's done it before. I softened. Then fight back. I'm trying. Her voice cracked. With you here. I'm remembering who I was before fear won. We kissed again, slower this time under the stars. When we pulled apart, she said, Come home with me tonight. I hesitated. Amber. Please. I went. Her apartment in Streeterville was sleek, minimalist, nothing like the cluttered girl I'd loved. But her bed smelled like her. We didn't speak much. We just held each other, tracing scars both visible and hidden. In the dark, she whispered, I want to tell her. About us. For real this time. My heart stuttered. Are you sure? No. She laughed softly. But I think I'm ready to be scared for the right reasons. The next morning, I woke to her making coffee. Sunlight slanted across the counter. For the first time in years, hope felt possible. But hope is fragile. That afternoon, Fatima summoned Amber to the family home. Alone. When Amber returned hours later, her face was pale. She knows, she said. Someone saw us on the terrace. A cousin. Told her everything. I stood. What did she say? Amber sank onto the couch. She said if I choose you, I lose everything. The company. The family. My inheritance. She'll sell her shares to a competitor before letting Pinnacle. And me have it. I knelt in front of her. Then choose. Tears streamed down her face. I can't lose them, Elena. Not again. The words landed like a blade. I stood slowly. You already made that choice once. She reached for me. Wait. But I was already at the door. Tell your mother the deal is still on. Professionally. Nothing more. I left her crying on the floor. The project rolled forward without mercy. I threw myself into work site inspections, contractor meetings, investor calls. Anything to drown the ache. Amber tried to reach me. Texts, calls, emails with apologies buried in spreadsheets. I responded only to business. One evening, she cornered me in the parking garage after a late meeting. Elena, please talk to me. I kept walking. We have nothing to discuss outside the contract. She grabbed my arm. I made a mistake. You made the same mistake twice. I pulled free. I'm done being collateral. Her eyes were red-rimmed. I told her no. I stopped. What? I told Mom I wouldn't end it. That I love you. That I'd rather lose the company than lose myself again. I searched her face. And she laughed. Said I'd regret it. Then she called the family attorney. She's initiating proceedings to remove me from the board. Claims emotional instability. I felt sick. She can't do that. She can try. Amber's voice trembled. But she's also threatening to tank the deal. Pull out entirely. Let the stores collapse. I stared at the concrete floor. Why are you telling me? Because I need your help. She stepped closer. Not as my ex. As the director who holds the power here. If Pinnacle walks, she loses everything anyway. But if you push, if you make it clear the deal dies without me staying in place, she might back down. I laughed bitterly. You want me to blackmail your mother with her own desperation? I want you to help me save what's left of us. Silence echoed in the empty garage. Finally I said, I'll consider it. But this isn't forgiveness. I know. I walked away. But I didn't sleep that night. The next day I called Marcus. We need leverage. He listened. What kind? The kind that keeps the COO in her seat. He chuckled. I like where this is going. We drafted an addendum. Key personnel retention clause. If Amber was removed from her role for any reason other than gross misconduct, Pinnacle could terminate the agreement without penalty and pursue damages. I presented it at the next family meeting. Fatima read the clause. Her face tightened. This is extortion. It's protection, I said calmly. For our investment. Amber sat silent, eyes on the table. Fatima looked at her daughter. You put her up to this? Amber lifted her chin. No. But I won't fight it. Fatima's hand trembled as she signed. Afterward, in the hallway, Amber touched my wrist. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said. This isn't over. That night, she showed up at my door with a bottle of wine and red-rimmed eyes. I told the family, she said. Not just Mom. Everyone. Cousins. Aunts. I told them I'm done hiding. I let her in. We talked until dawn about pain, about fear, about the cost of truth. When the sun rose, she kissed me softly. I'm not running this time, she whispered. But truth has a price. 2 weeks later, Fatima suffered a mild stroke. The family blamed stress. Blamed Amber. Blamed me. Hospital waiting rooms became battlegrounds. Relatives whispered. Glared. One aunt hissed. You destroyed her. Amber stood tall. No. I saved her. And myself. But Fatima, from her hospital bed, refused to see her daughter. Amber broke. She cried in my arms every night. I held her. But part of me wondered if love was worth this wreckage. The grand opening of the first redeveloped location approached. Media invited. Ribbon-cutting ceremony. Pinnacle's logo everywhere. Amber and I worked side by side, professional, distant in public. But at night we rebuilt what we'd lost. Slowly. Carefully. Fatima recovered enough to attend the event. Wheelchair. Oxygen. But present. She watched from the front row as Amber gave the speech. Thank you to our partners at Pinnacle, Amber said, voice steady. And to Elena Vasquez, whose vision and strength made this possible. Our eyes met across the crowd. Something unspoken passed between us. Afterward, Fatima asked to speak with me privately. In a quiet office, she looked smaller. Fragile. I underestimated you, she said. I waited. I thought you came for revenge. She coughed. Perhaps you did. But you also saved us. I came for the job. She smiled thinly. Liar. I didn't deny it. I won't apologize, she continued. I did what I thought was right for my family. And now, Now I see my daughter happy. Her eyes glistened. I don't understand it, but I see it. She reached out. Tell her. I'm proud. I nodded. I will. Fatima died 3 months later. Peacefully. In her sleep. The funeral was massive. Community leaders. Politicians. Family from 3 continents. Amber stood at the grave dry-eyed. She'd cried herself empty already. Afterward at the house, relatives gathered. Some avoided her. Others hugged her tightly. One cousin pulled me aside. She told us everything. About you two. About the fight. I braced. She said you gave her courage. I swallowed. She gave it to herself. That night, Amber and I sat on her balcony overlooking the city. I'm free, she said quietly. For the first time. I took her hand. What now? Now we build something real. She turned to me. No hiding. No ultimatums. I kissed her knuckles. No running. We made love slowly, reverently. Not to erase the past but to claim the present. The project completed. Stores thrived. The brand evolved, still honoring roots but open to new voices. Amber stayed as CEO. I was promoted to VP. We moved in together. Quietly. Then publicly. Social media buzzed. Some celebrated. Some condemned. We ignored both. One evening, walking along the lakefront, Amber stopped. I almost lost you forever, she said. You almost did. She turned to me. Was it worth it? All the pain. I looked at her beautiful scarred mind. Yes, I said. Because I got you back. She smiled through tears. I love you, Elena. I love you too. We kissed as the sun set over Chicago, the city that had once torn us apart now witnessing us whole. But love doesn't erase questions. Years later, I still think about that first day I walked back into their store. The fear in Amber's eyes. The steel in mine. We built a life. Not perfect. Not easy. Family gatherings are still tense sometimes. Some relatives never warmed. But others did. Amber's younger sister calls me sis. Her cousins send holiday cards. We got married on a rooftop downtown, small, intimate, city lights as witnesses. No drama. Just vows. But every anniversary we revisit the pier. Tonight is no different. Wind whips off the lake. Amber leans against the railing, hair loose. Do you ever regret it? She asks. Coming back. She nods. I slide my arms around her waist. Never. She turns in my embrace. Even with all the hurt? Especially then. I brush hair from her face. Pain taught us what mattered. She rests her head on my shoulder. I hurt you so badly. You did. I kiss her temple. But you came back too. We stand in silence, watching ships move across the dark water. Finally she whispers, was it right? To force the truth out the way we did. I think about Fatima's last words. About the stroke. About the family fractures that never fully healed. I don't know, I admit. Maybe we could have waited. Maybe softer would have been kinder. Amber pulls back, searches my face. But would softer have worked? I sigh. Probably not. She nods slowly. Ich chose mes elfes. And you? Was that selfish? Survival rarely feels selfless. She laughs quietly. Philosophy from the VP. Experience from the girl who got left behind. We kiss long, slow, familiar. As we walk back to the car, hand in hand, one question lingers between us, unspoken but always there. When love demands a reckoning, when family loyalty collides with personal truth, when the cost of authenticity is measured in broken hearts and rebuilt lives. Was the price worth paying?